Hey guys, welcome to my channel, The Wandering Wellspring. This is the tarot for Libras, Sun, Moon, Rising, Mercury, Mars, or Venus. Now, I do this a little bit differently than others you may have seen. Before I do these videos, I go ahead and meditate on the energy of your sign and then get visions. Now, in this video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the vision I got and then interpret it a little bit as far as how it may affect you, excuse me, for the month of March, and what you might need to focus on. Then from there, we'll go ahead and pull oracle cards and tarot cards, and as I'm guided, and we'll dig into those. This is a general reading for the collective, so it may or may not resonate or fit your situation. Also, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see and how things resonated for you. Especially during this time, human contact is huge. So commenting is a really great way to help the YouTube algorithm, along with the liking and subscribing, of course. Also, if you like the decks you see, I'll try to mention them in the description, and I'll try to mention them in the videos, but if not, they're in the description. Sorry, had that mixed up. Anyways, hey Libra, this is your reading for March 2021. The way I do this is I usually start with a vision that I got in my meditation time for you, and then I go ahead and pull oracle cards and then tarot cards as guided. So your vision, the vision I got for you was trying to jump rope, like jumping rope, and each time you do it, it's kind of, like it's getting stuck on your wrist or getting stuck on itself on the part you hold, the hard part you hold, you know, like when they have the handles. And so it's a little bit jerky and finicky and gets stuck on itself. And I don't know if it was completely stopping you from jumping rope, but it was just really awkward and hard to deal with, and it kept like getting stuck, so your timing would be off and things like that. And then I asked what the jump rope was, because I asked what the jump rope was, and I asked what jumping rope was for you. So I asked what the jump rope was. I'm trying to remember which one was first. Hold on. Yeah. I asked what the jump rope was, and I got plane flying and literally like opening the plane or whatever, opening the door or hatch door, whatever. I don't know what it's called, you know, for outside. And just dumping water out of the plane. I wasn't seeing what the purpose was. I wasn't seeing like if there was a fire or anything like that. It was literally just dumping water out of the plane. The second part, or not the second part, then I asked what jumping rope was for you. And I got gardening, but specifically like, yeah, gardening and the concept of sowing the seeds and like planting them and basically letting it grow and then harvesting. Harvesting or beautifying, either way, like flowers too, but it was just in general gardening. As far as like before going into cards, what I would take from that is that, sorry, I keep getting it mixed up, which one's the jumping rope and which one's the rope itself. So what you're jumping over is this concept of pouring water from a plane. Now, we can break it down by elements into where if you're in a plane, then you're in the air and it's kind of like in a mental headspace, or even, I mean, you can think that way, or you can think so that it can reach other people and it's, you know, pouring out of the plane. But so while flying, pouring water out to the ground. And so basically it's releasing or giving, like giving, pouring out, emotional, compassion, intuition, that element of water out to the ground. And then there's also the idea of the ground is dry ground. So you're taking into something, you're pouring onto something that's solid ground. You're pouring so solid, like solid, stiff structure. You're pouring an element of fluidity and movement and flexibility and like moving over something. You know, if water moves over something or goes under something, it flattens, it spreads. It doesn't just stay in its original form. You know, it doesn't have a set form unless it's ice. But anyways, you were pouring something that is fluid and moving. Sorry, I'm looking at my hands while I do that. It looks kind of cool, actually. But you're pouring something that's fluid and moving into something that's solid. This could even be you like having a new avenue, partially like a new avenue where you're coming into a realm where things are structured this way, that way, a solid ground and foundation kind of, and you're bringing in this like, not commotion, but looseness. Which is interesting because Libra is generally, I mean, as an air sign, usually a little bit more mental and logical. So to bring this fluidity, it's something you're operating in, obviously. The other thing with that is when I asked what the action of you jumping rope was, like what that symbolized, I got gardening. So when you jump over this thing, so jump over this idea, or you're trying to get over this hurdle that consists of you putting something that moves in motion and everything like that into something that's dry and solid. When you jump over that and you consistently do that, then it's like you're gardening. You're planting a new harvest, or planting and harvesting. You know, you're sowing the seed. So, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's flowers, sometimes it's beautifying, but you're growing something new. You're growing kind of new life in a sense, but in that realm, like, you know, as far as plants and stuff. I'm trying to see if I'm missing anything. It's funny too, because the water, you pouring water out of the plane onto ground is dry, yet the action of you jumping rope, not this, actually it's this, the action of you jumping rope is you gardening. And what it takes to garden is to till the soil and to plant into the dirt. So instead of just putting water on it only, literally putting something, planting something in, and having the patience to grow it, to water it, to tend to it and care for it. So that whole action is done when you consistently jump rope. But the individual rope you jump over is this crazy pouring out of a plane water onto there. And also, the thing about pouring out of a plane, say it is from a mental space, say it is in the air, in the sky, right? And flying. When you pour out of the plane the water onto the ground, It's like you're taking something from an idea, a concept, a mental thing. Think of, you know, the element of air. You're taking something from that and outpouring from that. Well, obviously life, cleansing, all that water as well. But the element of water, which doesn't have a solid form. So literally, you might be working on something where you're pulling something out of nowhere. Literally, it seems like. You're not. But to others, when you're in the air, and literally from the air is where you choose to pour water onto the ground from. One, that takes a long time. It falls long. It's not like you're on the ground just... And two, you're going to that space to do the water. So maybe you need to be in that mental space, or at least you feel you have needed to, in that mental space, in order to pour the water down. Or not in order to pour, in order to access the water so that you can pour it. Or in order to come to the headspace to be willing to let go and pour the water on it. I don't know. It depends on who you are. It depends on the rest of the reading. But those are the concepts and those are the possibilities so far. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the cards are showing. I'm going to start with the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. I'm just going to ask Spirit, God, Universe, what does Libra have to learn or know as far as messages for the month of March in regards to the visions that I'm getting for Libra? What does Libra need to know for the month of March? These are crazy to shuffle. Excuse me. It's funny how the back is like, looks like stones or diamonds or whatever. And with these readings, it doesn't have to be your sun sign. It can be your sun, moon, rising, Venus, Mars, Mercury. It can also be if you have a stellium, meaning multiple planets in the sign of Libra. This might resonate for you. But sometimes also your other signs, your other planets are in signs that might resonate even more too. So you might want to check on what your other planets are and then check those readings as well. And also I always say, you're going to get this reading. If this resonates, whatever, you're going to get this reading when you're supposed to. So if you see this and you watch it at the end of the month, it might still resonate for you next month. If you watch it 2 months later, hey, it might still resonate. This is for the month of March, but you'll see it when you're supposed to see it, when you're ready to receive it. I'm going to do overhand shuffling because that was kind of crazy shuffling in general. Hopefully I can manage. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to go with that. Let's see. I'm going to just put it like this. Oh, and the way this is too, like, I'm going to put it down as it is as I do it, but I generally don't read reversals, but because of the way these cards are, I'm going to be open to reading it that way. Maybe. Okay, we're going to turn it. Also, because I have a really hard time reading things backwards, like literally writing. So I'd be staring at it forever. Oh, that's weird. This inside, it could look like fingers holding it, but it also is like this gooiness. Like it looks like it's like strings or stalactites or stalagmites. I don't remember. They're just like going across on the inside. And it's funny because this looks like a nest, almost like nesting materials. And this is the rope. Or a snake. Not sure. And then the inside looks like it's almost like an egg, but it's like out of this whole thing. So anyway, we have Starborn and we have this egg here, and then we have this egg here, or this mother concept here, and then Father's here. I feel like I might not have shuffled these enough, so I'm going to go ahead and do this again, but I will read this as it is right now, just in case, you know, because everything happens for a reason. So I want to read it as it is, unless this totally fits, but it's just interesting. 1, 2, 3, like, I feel like maybe I didn't shuffle enough. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of things in this right now. I know this isn't a penny, but it looks like a penny to me, especially the color. Like, it really looks like a penny to me. Oh, I just noticed that this is the inverted of that. But I didn't notice that first. I saw this as like just bunches of tumbleweed or hay. And then this is the tree. And so this is almost like a needle in a haystack. But I mean, it's the concept of a needle in a haystack because it's huge so we can see it. But it's the idea of like you could find or you could lose a penny and this, whereas this is the full blown. And that energy of having both sides of something that is hidden in something and is like not alive, but is like the currency in it. And then something that's like just as is. But then it also could be seen as like, you know, almost like yin and yang. And then this is this one and then this is that. But it's the father and this is the mother. A star is born. Get that, and then we have the bridge. So it's like once you connect, and it's funny because if these two make this, right, father and the mother, they make this. Well, I feel like this might be this. It's the concept of there's something, I don't know, I read, or I mean, I know it's true, but it's the idea that you've been, what is it? So you were in, let me see if I can explain this correctly. You know, you were in your mother's womb as an egg, your energy, your part, your, not your parts, but your chromosomes. But the thing is your mother always had you in her womb. And your grandmother always had your mother in her womb, which had you. So technically, like, it goes back. So it's like at one point, you, the essence of you in that way, sorry, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly. It's probably super easy to understand. I just might not be explaining it right. The essence of you was in your grandmother. It's like our mothers, like we carry a part of our mothers and our descendants. Like I have a part of, well, it's a little bit different, but yeah. So I just feel that, like the energy, the different levels here. So it's that concept of like, that's coming in with that, with all this history and this levels of interconnectivity. And then the father has this. So this was always in this. this, but and then that's what bridges. And it's funny because this is 1, 2, 3. So these 3 are in this. So the original is in the creation. And that's, I mean, that's kind of funny too, because it's like, you might think you need to go up in the sky to pour the water. And that's why you're like, you're jumping over this, you're trying to do that. But ultimately, you doing that is the same as you gardening on the ground. It's just where you feel you need to be. It doesn't mean that that is where you have to be, but that's kind of where you've been functioning. It's funny too, because these colors are all in here as well. So it's like, it's a reflection. It's, again, the concept of the original being in the creation. And it's also funny because this is like a full circle and this kind of like energy. And this is like solid straight, and it's even like bordered. Like it's 2 different things. And I get this idea that like you can wonder sometimes when this happens, when you create this, say this isn't even a person, say this is your creation, what you're building, you can wonder sometimes, sometimes if these little stars, because this is the star born, so it's like stars being born, you can wonder sometimes if this is the same as this. So what that means is, say this is more tangible, like this looks like a star, an actual star, and this is the symbol, so this is almost like the water symbol. I don't know what all it says around it. It says some stuff around it. Let me see if I can get you. But I can't see what it says around it exactly. But it's almost like the water symbol. So there's 2 ways to look at this. You can look and be like, okay, are these stars, are these things that I'm creating, are these births that I'm creating, these little ones, or these old ones that have happened and this is how it started, ultimately like this? And maybe it's past father stuff. It might be past upbringing, where it looked like money outside of this, and it was like creating this, not sustenance, provision. Or like this also, where it was creating this hope and this like almost, not miracleness, but magical like hope. Or you can also be looking at it as, is this the same as this, which is the water symbol, and this is outside of a tree. Whereas this is like, actually I just saw, yeah, it's outside of a tree. So it's like what the water is to the tree is like what, I mean, like you did, you put the water into the dirt. You put this into this. So you're just asking, it's almost like you're asking yourself, like, is this what I'm doing? Or is this what I'm doing? Am I supposed to just do a regular gardening situation? Or am I supposed to go above and beyond and like make it look like miracles are happening while I'm in a plane and pouring water out? And it looks like you've kind of been struggling with that, where, and that's why the jump rope, like you keep getting it stuck around itself and on yourself. And it's like, well, if the jump rope itself is that concept and it gets stuck on itself, then it's almost like it feels unneeded, unnecessary. It's like, if this thing is such a crazy task that it's making it to where it doesn't even happen because you keep getting it like stuck on itself, then maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and see if there's a purpose for the task in the first place. Because if you can get things out without having to do that, then you're going to get things out quicker, and you're still going to be true to yourself and have the elements you want. So it really seems like you're kind of struggling with that, of what you're creating, what you're birthing, and if it's like familial, if it looks like what it did for maybe people generations in your family, or, you know, your parents. It might be generations though, because this is like, again, like I said, it's going back. It's going into that. And you're saying, is this going to do what's needed? Is it going to water things? Is it going to bridge the gap? Especially because if you think about it, like, if you pour water out of a plane, you're moving fast enough that you know the water is not going to stay in the same spot. It's going to be all different places you're pouring. Whereas if you pour water in a garden, you're right there, and you might pour too much in the one place. And so with this, it's like, this is bridging the gap. This is like, almost like, I see it like as like above the water, and it's saying, okay, even though there's all this water, we can still like get across to the bridge, right? Or we can create a bridge and we can get across. We're still good. Whereas when you're on top, when you're like in the sky like that, in the mental, you know, if we're doing this mentally, and you're pouring this, this flowing of emotional, pouring your heart out, intuitive, like all this element that's coming down onto dry land. And this might even be, you're pouring this out into parts of yourself. So say the dry land is like another part of you, and you're literally like pouring water onto it, and it hasn't ever been watered. So you've never gotten that, you've never gotten fed in that way. You've never allowed the light, I'm saying the light, but really in this sense it's the water, but you've never allowed the light to shine in those areas of yourself, or to see those areas of yourself, or people to see those areas of yourself. So you're pouring water out, and as you're pouring water out, because you're so far away and you're in the plane, you can control that it doesn't go too much in one place. So you kind of might feel like there's a safety there, that if you stay in your head and you keep it mental, then you can control the emotional levels, and you can control everything, so you don't pour too much in one area, and you don't like oversaturate things. So you kind of might be giving yourself that extra hurdle to jump over, because you're trying to operate in your element of the mental, of keeping things in your head, of saying, okay, I'm going to do this logically, I'm going to do that. Oh, but I'm going to do logically, but right there, that's allowed to get some emotion, and that's allowed to get a little bit of me. But that's not the way that works. Because if that's coming from you in the first place, if that's coming from up there, that means it's actually there already. It's just you haven't allowed yourself to admit to yourself that that's in you, or that that is something you need to embrace in yourself. So, in a sense, it's a defense mechanism to do it all the way from the plane. It might look like a smart idea. Oh, okay, she's being generous, she's pouring all this out. But ultimately, you're going so fast so that you don't have to get all of it wet and saturate everything too much, so you can't make a mistake. So you're kind of doing it, so it's like, it's one, so that you can trust yourself, you're operating in the mental, like I said. But two, it's so that you don't overdo it. Like you're so limiting yourself, and limiting even underneath, because think about it. Maybe there's some spots that need more water than you're allowing, but because you're going so fast, because you're in a plane, and you're pouring it the way you are, it's like some spots might not be getting the water they need. Just because it's getting poured out doesn't mean it's getting poured out to the places it's supposed to only. Or not only, but you know what I mean? It's supposed to, or it needs it the most. You know, it's not getting that. Whereas if you were gardening, you would be pouring, you'd be, you know, focusing on it clearly. But the thing is, your whole heart in the first place to be jumping rope is to garden. So it's basically saying you're doing this extra step to operate in yourself the way you operate, but you're making it harder on yourself, and you're doing it out of fear. And ultimately, you might be making more work for yourself because you might have to come back around and pour water where you didn't do it before. Or you might end up being unknowing, like not knowing that you didn't pour water there and thinking, well, I just did. I went through that. That was in my route. But if you didn't actually get up close and personal with it and allow yourself to become vulnerable and willfully let it out, like in a garden, then you still have your defenses up. And you're still going to be reaping the fruit and the harvest of that mentality rather than this freedom that you're trying to pour on things. But the heart is great. The heart is great. You're in a really good place right now, trying to pour out and garden, and you've understood the need for it now. It's just there's some other needs that you have in yourself that you haven't come to terms with. I'm trying to see if there's anything else in this I'm missing. The other thing I'm seeing is you might have felt as a child maybe even as a mother with your children, but or with your idea of children, even if you don't have kids, but you may have felt as a child, some of you as a child, some of you as a mother, restricted. Like you're in this cocoon that's supposed to be all like loving, nurturing you as this new growth, but there's like these like stringiness, and it's like it might seem soft or it might seem spiky, who knows, but it's like creating this boundary that ultimately there's like nothing really there. Wait. Oh my gosh, okay. I guess that's a hand. I didn't realize that's a hand. I thought this was stalactites or like stringiness. But because I didn't see that as a hand, I think I'm gonna, if it's a hand, for some of you guys, if it's a hand, I also still feel the same thing. Some of you might be that you felt boundaries, but some of you also, it might be, you might have felt coddled and it was holding you down. It was pulling you down. And that's not always the case with this card. This might be just really nice, loving, motherly. But I'm seeing this way for a reason. And I feel like right now I'm seeing it more in the negative of you felt kind of hindered, overprotected, over-sheltered, or limited. And even maybe the sheltering could have made you feel limited to where it was almost claustrophobic, to where you really didn't feel like you had an identity, or you could be have your own identity. And that's why right now when you operate in this, you operate with such, I need to be all the way up here because I might ruin something, I might mess something up, because you never had you weren't given the support and confidence in yourself that you can actually do this as a child. You weren't given that. You weren't showing that, being shown that belief in you. So right now, the way you operate is because of that sometimes. And that's a wound you're going to need to deal with too, because it's one thing to feel the fear of, okay, in order to water this ground underneath me, I have to be in a plane moving super fast so I don't get everything super wet and I don't oversaturate everything. And that way, it'll all be in different areas. Okay, I don't remember how I just started that. But either way, you can say that, but if it's coming from a fear ultimately you have to deal with that fear. And if that fear is because of your own lack of assurance and belief in yourself, or belief, or even not even belief in yourself, but freedom to have done it the right way, freedom to have been encouraged while being allowed to move forward and grow, and really grow as a child, then that's why you're operating out of this. So, and I say this, but it's the other, what I said about the plane jumping out. So you really have to confront the issues with a mother figure you might have had, or just in general that hindrance, because the father energy was this way, of this like black and white, and sometimes hopeful, and sometimes it's about money, or sometimes it's water and emotional, and sometimes hope. I feel like there's more money though. And then the mother energy was this like mother hen, like overly protective, maybe when not needing to be, and then underly protective, maybe even when needing to be. But either way, it felt suffocating. It could have really felt suffocating for some of you. And that's why right now, when you're given a chance to do something and believe in yourself, you're taking such huge precautions and making it so hard for yourself to be able to function in that. Because literally you're trying to pour water from the sky into areas that need irrigation, instead of just doing it. And I don't get it's because it's a large area that needs it, because that could be the case too. No, it feels like it's more so a safety, or not safety, it's a defense mechanism of not overwatering. You don't want to overwater. And the only reason you're afraid of overwatering is because you weren't allowed to ever learn how to water. Like you didn't learn what healthy emotions looked like, both giving and receiving. You might not have been allowed to show emotions in certain things. You might not have been allowed to feel emotions in certain things. It just seems like you're very hindered about what emotional investment you're willing to make and how to make it. And that's the other thing too. This could be, like I said, giving your emotions to something, putting that out, flowing in this way, irrigating parts of yourself that really have never seen the light. But it also could be, for some of you, about emotional investment. Feeling like, I don't want to get lost. I don't want to become either this or this, overly holding on to things, or this rigid and this coldness. So I'm going to go ahead, and I don't want to be too emotionally invested in this because I don't want to lose myself. So some of you, there might be some of you that's more what the reading's about, is you have this thing you're trying to birth, but you're afraid of losing yourself. And so you're investing in it, but investing in it to where it's from so far away, very detached, and it goes to certain spots, certain places. And you're not really in control of where it goes. Because, it's really far up, and it's hard to be clear about that. But it's not up close and personal and connecting like an actual gardening experience would be. And the gardening experience is what would actually cause you, or teach you, that you can release your emotions as you just naturally without having to go into that headspace first. That headspace is a protection or a defense mechanism. Okay, let's see what kind of tarot. That was interesting. I think I'm just gonna pull 3 cards from this one. What messages do my Libras need to hear for the month of March, especially regarding the vision and the message so far? Spirit, God, universe, what messages do my Libras need to hear? Oh yeah, and that was super fitting, so I wasn't going to redo that. I thought I was. Redo the pulling for the Wild Unknown Archetypes cards. Yeah. So, 8 of Fire is like 8 of Wands, so things coming at you quickly, or you're doing things really quickly. The Strength card ultimately is about also trust and having strength, and the Lion has to have self-control with the woman so that it doesn't give over to its urges and instincts. And the woman has to connect and have courage in herself with the Lion so she can be tender and be there for it. So it's like they both are at this moment, this precipice of any moment things could collapse, yet they're in that intense fire, not fire, but intense energy. Functioning harmoniously. And then Justice, which is cannabis. It's funny, there's a lot of balance to this card because there's these on this corner and these on this corner. And this is like what? The Declaration of Independence? Oh, wow. That's crazy. So, hold on, I'll show you. So that same ring of like rope, or maybe a snake in that picture, but I don't know, is like almost like the ring right there. So it's like the growth there, this growth of justice, this growth of trying to have justice. Yet it is really funny because it's like, if this is such an important document, you know, the you know, like the Declaration of Independence, if it's such an important document, I feel like it's an injustice. I feel like it's an injustice to have it covered up. It doesn't matter like if it's in line with it or not. How can you read what it originally was if you're covering it up? So I feel I feel weird about that card because it feels like the intention is to have justice, or like what this card is saying is justice, or what is being seen that way. But in this mothering energy, remember I said this is overbearing mothering energy, and this overbearing, like it's on top of it, and it's like, okay, this is what justice looks like. But if you have to cover up the original, what it was, to say this is what justice looks like, saying that you're agreeing, then that doesn't sit well with me. And that feels like that mothering energy. That feels like that overbearing energy of when you're trying to function as a child, or you're trying to grow as an adult and heal from different wounds and different stuff. And when you function, or when you try to, birth new things and things like that, and then you kind of come up with this, where it's like you're always in the shadow. You're always thinking, okay, well, my wounds and my issues I dealt with my parents or with my upbringing, is tainting this. It's tainting what I'm trying to do, or it's tainting what was done. And it's like, how do you know that you disagree with this? Say you disagree with this, and that's why you did this. How do you know you disagree with this if you're covering it up? And how do you know you agree with it if you're covering it up? If you cover it up with something, then other people can't actually understand what the original form was. So I feel like that's, one, a disservice, but I feel like that's kind of what you might be dealing with, where when you're trying to put something out, or that's why you've resorted to being in this mental space to pour out from, is because when you've tried to do stuff, you felt like it wasn't yours. You felt like you were only operating in the lines of what's, what you've been shown. But even that, people couldn't see you because they didn't know what you stood for. And people couldn't see what you've been shown because you were covering it up. So either way, it was all muddled. And even to you, when you'd look at it, you didn't understand it. And this is funny too, because it says garlic, but I mean, it's saying, so this is a strength. But yeah, I mean, that's also even, that goes with that energy too. With when I said with the lion and the woman, that goes with the same energy of like the mother situation, where you're like, okay, well, if I do this, if I act according to my instincts, the lion's thinking, if I act according to my instincts, the woman dies and I don't have this connection anymore. And the woman's thinking, if I act according to my instincts and I flee and I run away, I lose this connection and I lose the strength I'm getting. Because as she's working with the lion, she's gaining strength and confidence in herself. So she runs away. She stops that connection. So that's also what you've been dealing with too, with the whole mother thing or familial thing in yourself, is this, if I go according to my instincts, I might ruin everything and destroy it. I mean, if you pour too much water, if you let yourself go too much emotionally. And then if I go according to my instincts and I run away and I just give up, then I might destroy my opportunity to get this amazing opportunity. And that's why you're literally settled on, okay, well, I'm going to try to do this from a plane, from the air, from a mental place. And this is like everything's coming at you. It's either everything's coming at you really fast and this is how you've been dealing, or this is you're dealing with everything super fast like the plane and you're missing things as you're doing that because you're going so fast. But also the thing with this card, what I see is I feel like this is what you're trying to bring. So you're coming from here or dealing with this, and then you're dealing with it in this situation, like I said, as far as that balancing in yourself with your wounds or your upbringing. And then you're trying to bring justice though. You're saying, okay, well, I don't want that to happen again. I'm going to do something different. But the thing is when you try to do something different and in your mind, your whole purpose is to not do what happened before or not to be who you were shown you were, it's all a muddled picture because you're still giving power to what you were shown before, or giving power to your identity, what you felt your identity was before. So it's a muddled picture either way. This is what you're trying to bring. You're trying to bring justice, but it's all muddled in the form of balance. It's like, oh, okay, well, let me put this here and this here, and now it'll be okay. Now there'll be balance. And I also feel that way too. It's a balance of, okay, well, I'm really afraid I can't do this, but I'm going to do this in a way that'll make me feel safe. So then I'll be okay with it. So I'm going to go into my mental plane and I'm going to pour from there. I'm going to decide what is allowed to come out and what's not allowed to come out and where it can come out. But either way, then you still have irrigation needs because it's not getting this full-blown actual attention and connection to the gardening that is needed within yourself or within your creation or both. Okay, I'm pretty sure that was what you needed to hear. I hope that reaches you whenever it's supposed to, when you are most open to receive it. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Commenting is amazing. It helps the YouTube algorithm, so it's even more helpful sometimes than just liking or subscribing. And also, let me know how this resonated with you. What tribe you are, what you're doing, like which scenario matched with you most. And let me know what else you want me to do readings for on, or what you thought. Thank you, and I will see you next time.